there are always those who are so gifted that it almost feels like they are crafted by the universe itself to be the perfect being. Their power eclipses everyone else. Their overall skill level can't even be considered human either. Of course, all this is in reference to Reinhard Van Astrea, the so-called hero of lugunica, who stopped at nothing to protect his nation. Of course, a lot of things I described can also apply to another pinnacle of power, the special grades. A group of 5 sorcerers who possess power so great that it's said they can topple an entire nation. And unlike Reinhardt, a lot of them want to stick out their necks to protect any nation. So what if Reinhardt had to battle these symbols of strength? Would his divine protections and sword allow him to reach the pinnacle? Or would the honored ones bring his journey to an end? Spoiler, it's not the second one.
There used to be an immortal warrior by the name of Sir Henry Man. This man was the greatest warrior to ever exist. His skills was at the peak of humanity, and his body was crafted by the very gods.
Reinhardt possesses a unique ability of divine protections. These are basically like special stat buffs or abilities that give the holder of them a unique advantage in life, whether it be related to combat or everyday tasks. Usually a person is only granted one divine protection in their entire lifetime, but Reinhardt, for some reason, is special. Odd Logna, which is basically the source of all divine protections, has allowed Reinhardt to hold on to a limitless amount of them. Whenever Reinhardt wishes for divine protection or enters a situation where a protection will be necessary, he is granted one without hesitation by the world. Okay, let's say Reinhardt has to retrieve GTA 6 from the bottom of the Marianas Trench. Normally this would be impossible because a human cannot hold their breath for that long, and the pressure would kill them before they even got remotely close. But Reinhardt, he likely unlock the divine protection of water breathing, which would allow him to hold his breath for hours, and the divine protection of pressure immunity, allowing him to withstand the pressure of the sea. But hey, this isn't just me making it up. Reinhardt has gained plenty of insane protections throughout the series, a lot of which activated after encountering a phenomena once. The divine protection of the Sword Saint grants the absolute pinnacle of swordsmanship talent and elevates his natural skill to the highest possible level the moment he inherits it. The divine protection of the Phoenix instantly revives him from death with full recovery of all injuries and exhaustion. Each use is replaced by an identical protection, effectively granting him continuous revival. Projectile evasion makes it extremely difficult for projectiles to land cleanly. Their trajectories are forced to curve away or miss. The divine protection of her sight provides perfect instinctive reaction to any attack he sees for the first time. The divine protection of sunburn completely prevents any burns of any kind, whether from fire, heat, or dragon's breath. The divine protection of ball balancing enables him to freely manipulate any spherical object. He can basically balance on any spherical object he pleases. But even without those divine protections, Reinhardt is already an absolute powerhouse. His defective gate cannot release mana outward, so instead it acts as an endless vacuum that passively absorbs ambient mana from the atmosphere. He channels that mana internally through the flow method, massively amplifying his already superhuman physical stats to a point where he can generate concentrated bursts of energy capable of leveling buildings or reshaping landscapes with a single swing. This absorption also affects the vicinity of magic, severely weakening most magical attacks before they can fully form. His raw physical parameters lets him go toe-to-toe and often overpower some of the strongest beings in the rezero world, including Cecilus, the Blue Lightning, one of the 4 individuals widely regarded as comparable to Reinhardt himself in skill. His strength and speed are equally absurd. After being thrown all the way to the moon by Regulus, Reinhardt simply planted his feet on the lunar surface and jumped back to the planet in a matter of minutes. Finally, there's a dragon sword reed. The blade is completely invincible. It possesses a will of its own and will only leave the sheath when it judges the opponent or the overall threat to be sufficiently worthy, forcing Reinhardt to use ordinary swords that shatter under his power. When it is drawn, its unique ability allows it to cut virtually anything: physical matter, space, light, intangibles, and even concepts themselves. A single full swing can unleash a torrent of light that annihilates everything in a vast radius, and has been shown to erase existence so thoroughly that the world itself is metaphorically reset in an affected area. So how exactly Reinhardt fare against the 5 special grade sorcerers?
If he ever encountered a foe that threatened the world, Special abilities allowed him to turn the world to ashes and remake it new.
Gojo would very briefly have the advantage because of the infinity that would hold back any attack Reinhardt sends his way. In those opening moments, he could freely use blue to try to crush Reinhardt with gravitational force, red to violently repel him the second he got close, purple to attempt complete vaporization. However, that is the surface level reading of the matchup. In reality though, this isn't what would happen. Thanks to the Dragon Sword read, Reinhardt would instantly cut through the infinity and defeat Gojo in one attack. But this is assuming the sword could even be drawn, which it may not be, because Gojo may not be considered a significant enough threat by the sword's own will. If that is the case, then this fight probably wouldn't have a clear winner. Reinhardt can't freely bypass infinity with ordinary means, and Gojo will be completely unable to defeat Reinhardt for good, thanks to the divine protection of the Phoenix and any other divine protections he developed during this battle, like a divine protection that makes him resistant to red or blue. On top of that, the divine protection projectile evasion will make Reinhardt extremely difficult to hit with red or purple in the first place, and even if purple got close, he'd probably just activate the divine protection of all balancing and effortlessly avoid it. Gojo's last hope would be his domain expansion. However, Reinhardt has already demonstrated access to anti-mind abilities through the divine protection of nightmares, which protects him from psychic influence and mental contamination. The moment he's caught within the domain, he likely gain a passive divine protection that negates information overload, nullifying the effects of having his mind forcefully flooded with infinite information.
Of course, all his foes, the world's denizens, even the very gods who crafted him, have fallen to his blade.
They may be both swordsmen, but Reinhardt would absolutely destroy Yuta in a pure sword battle. That part is almost boringly obvious thanks to the divine protection of the Sword Saint. Yuta also boasts an immense amount of cursed energy, yet Reinhardt can not only match that output with his broken gate, but also actively surpass it. He has a near limitless pool of ambient mana to draw from, so in a pure physical brawl, Reinhardt would still win. The real challenge only appears once Yuta activates his curse technique and fully summons Rika. Rika already possesses the immense amount of power and her stats set on par or higher than Yuta's own. However, Reinhardt would almost certainly gain a protection that makes handling multiple opponents trivial. Every copy curse technique that Yuta throws his way will be answered by divine protection. If Yuta tried curse speech, Reinhardt would gain a protection that lets him recover from the effects almost immediately. Yuta's domain would also be useless. Reinhardt would develop near instant immunity to it. Even full power Rika and her full power love beam would be matched and overwhelmed by Reinhardt's raw mana output. It would essentially function like Ryu Ishigori, except without any finite limit to how much energy he can pour after a certain period. Eventually the time limit on Rika's full manifestation will run out, and Reinhardt will proceed to wipe the floor with Yuta.
And now he is lonely. So very lonely. He had cut down too many people.
Yuki would be more of a physical threat to Reinhardt than anyone else. Her curse technique revolves around virtual mass, allowing her to increase her strength exponentially to a point where she can level buildings without any drop in speed or stamina. With the boost active, her physical striking power would arguably surpass Reinhardt's base strength. However, would that really matter? Reinhardt's divine protections of first sight and second sight means that Yuki may not even land a clean hit with her incredible strength. Even if she somehow did hit him hard enough to one-shot him, he'd simply revive through Phoenix and immediately develop a divine protection that makes him far more resistant to brute force impacts. I believe that Reinhardt could steadily back Yuki into a corner and force her to use her black hole technique. As you know, she can effectively turn into a black hole once she piles on enough mass. The problem with that plan though is that Reinhardt has already encountered a black hole at point blank range and survived. Aldebrand's Alkarum was an enormous gravitational singularity extremely similar to a black hole. It produced gravity so powerful that it could warp space and pulverize whatever was caught within it. During their battle, Aldebrand first fired the Magia railgun, which severely damaged Reinhardt's right arm and launched him backward, allowing Alkarum to form directly behind him. Reinhardt began having his body crushed by the immense gravitational force. However, rather than simply resisting or trying to outrun it, he drew the Dragon Sword reed and thrust its tip directly into the singularity, causing the entire attack to collapse and be destroyed. That is almost certainly what would happen If you were caught within the range of Yuki's black hole, he'd thrust the dragon sword into it and destroy the black hole as a whole.
However, things have changed. Sir Henry Man has noticed the people watching him.
I don't even have much to say about Kenjaku versus Reinhardt. His curse technique gives him access to hundreds of thousands of cursed spirits, each with unique abilities that could be a problem for Reinhardt to deal with, especially the ones that contain some form of domain. However, we run into a similar issue like we did with Yuta, and that is the Reinhardt will most likely develop divine protections to counter the more unique curses. His raw mana output would also vaporize a vast majority of the more lower tier curses. Kenjaku's only hope would be the maximum Uzumaki, but Reinhardt can either counter it with his own mana output or simply tank it and revive later. More likely, Reinhardt would just blitz Kenjaku and end the fight as soon as possible. Sukuna versus Reinhardt would be the most interesting battle, purely because Sukuna's intelligence and problem-solving skills. Let's be clear right away, Cleave and Dismantle will be absolutely useless. They are projectile-style attacks that only hit Reinhardt like 50% of the time, and Reinhardt will likely develop the divine protection that allows him to sense or see the slashes. Sukuna would likely try to open his domain expansion and atomize Reinhardt with a sure hit. However, it is highly probable that Reinhardt will develop the divine protection of slash resistance in response, reducing all slashing damage by 70% or something. The furnace will be Sukuna's last conventional hope. But wait, Reinhardt already possesses the divine protection of Sunburn and a whole other arsenal of fire-based protections that renders fire attacks completely useless. I only brought up Sukuna's intelligence because I figured that maybe, just maybe, he could figure out a way to bypass the divine protections and kill Reinhardt for good. The issue is, there's already been an exceptionally intelligent fighter who entered the battle against Reinhardt with extensive prep time and the ability to literally reverse time, and even that opponent could not find a single viable permanent method of victory. No matter what he did, Reinhardt always developed the perfect counter. Unfortunately for Sukuna, fighting Reinhardt will be like fighting Maharaga, but on steroids.
He has noticed you watching, and now he no longer feels alone. Do not worry, you will be meeting